state, and her best days and our state's best days are still ahead. Great candidate for treasurer, but beyond that, I see a bright future for you ahead, Christina, and we're rooting for your success. And I know everybody in this room is every bit as proud of you for the years you did represent this region. I want to thank you all for being here tonight. She brought up my appearances on Fox News. I guess I'll kick off with one of my appearances this last week, which is a funny one. We had some fun with this. It was maybe about Tuesday night. I was on with Jesse Waters, and he usually has a lighthearted tone, right? So we were having a little banter at the start of the show. He gives this monologue about Al Gore. And Al Gore is saying the kind of thing that Al Gore usually says, which is usually for me changing the channel. But Jesse's talking about Al Gore, and he says, he's saying some crazy things about the current administration or whatever. And then anybody asked me, so what do you think of what Al Gore said? And I guess my answer was, I don't really think of what Al Gore said. It doesn't really matter. And in some sense, that's the theme of the discussion I wanted to have tonight. Well, we've been through the depths for the last 4 years, and if we're being really honest, it's not just the last 4 years. In some ways, it's the last 6 decades since Lyndon Johnson's Great Society. Let's really be honest about this. We've been through the depths as a country, but especially over the last 4 years. In November, we had a chance to make our voices heard at the ballot box, and I believe we got it right when we delivered a decisive victory last November. Thank you all for that, and sending Donald Trump back to the White House, both chambers of Congress. But now it's a new moment in the country. We're out of the doom and gloom. Out with the doom, in with the boom. That's what I say. And so what I told Jesse was, listen, about 6 months from now, I don't want us to be talking about Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. Frankly, if we're doing that by November of this year, that means we've lost the plot. Okay, we've got the presidency, both chambers of Congress, a 6-3 majority on the U.S. Supreme Court. Here in our state of Ohio, a conservative state with control of all 3 branches of government. If we screw it up now, we've got no one to blame but ourselves. 6 months from now, our memory of Joe Biden should be approximately equivalent to Joe Biden's memory of anything, is what I would say. That's what we're shooting for, all right? We're done with the past, ready for the future. And at this moment in our movement, it's not just what are we running from. The question now is, what are we running to? What do we actually stand for as Americans? What does it mean to be an American in the year 2025? Do we believe? I mean, there are ideals that still bind us together as Americans. I think it's a legitimate question to ask. You had a legitimate showing of protesters today, 40 people at least, maybe 50 people outside, who knows, approximately, who deeply disagree with the people in this room. The question to ask is, across our geographically expansive, diverse nation, do we believe there are still those thread of ideals that bind this country together? And I believe those ideals still exist. I actually do. I believe the ideals that set this country into motion in 1776 still continue to exist and thrive today. I believe in meritocracy and the pursuit of excellence and hard work in the United States. That you do get ahead in this country, not on the color of your skin, but on the content of your character and your contributions. And that is why we're out with the woke DEI agenda and affirmative action and group quota systems, because we stand for merit in the United States of America, not your genetics. What does it mean to be American? It means we believe in the rule of law in this country. And I say this as the proud son of legal immigrants to this country. That means your first act of entering this country cannot break the law. And that is why if we've had the largest influx of illegals across our southern border, then we will seal that southern border without apology, because that's what it means to stand for the rule of law in the United States of America. It's a basic American precept this country was founded on. And we're going to stand for it. It's not racist or xenophobic. That's what it means to be an American. It means that we, the people, create a government that's accountable to us, not the other way around. That the people we elect to run the government ought to be the ones who actually make the laws, not unelected bureaucrats in 3-letter agencies that write fiats with no accountability. From Washington, D.C. to, frankly, even Columbus, Ohio. We believe in accountability. That too is part of what it means to be an American. We believe in free speech and open debate. That you get to speak your mind openly as long as I get to in return. And at our best, we can still get together at the dinner table at the end of it. That's the Ohio I grew up into. As Americans, we're brave, we're courageous, when called upon, even heroic, to do what is right for our country in our hour of need. That's what our founding fathers fought for 250 years ago. That's what we're going to celebrate next year on the 250th anniversary of our Declaration of Independence, next July 4th, 2026. I call that our modern Declaration of Independence. It's a Declaration of Independence from our government, not the culture of dependence, but independence from it. That's what's ahead for America. We are on the cusp of a new golden age, a new revival, a new renaissance in our country. And I'm not some fake optimist, all right? If I was here a few years ago, for those of you who heard me, I had a very different set of concerns about the country. But I am more optimistic now about the future of our country than I've ever been. But it's not going to happen automatically. We have our work cut out for us. If we're going to be saved as a country in this next chapter, it's not just one man coming from on high, from the White House or a governor's mansion to save us. If we're going to be saved, it is going to be because we step up and save ourselves at every level. And I want to thank everyone in this room. We got mayors, county commissioners, city councilmen, state central committeemen, state legislators in the House and the Senate. Give these leaders a round of applause. Stand up if you're serving the state right now in any capacity. Stand up, Christina. Stand up, Senator. Stand up, Larry Albaugh. Come on. Give the people who are serving our state a round of applause. Because in this next chapter of our history, it is going to be the states that ought to lead the way, as our founders envisioned it. A true golden age for federalism in America. That's what's ahead. Look at the Department of Education. It's great that we shut that 60-year-old institution down at the federal level to send that money back to the states and to the people where it belongs to improve education in this country. But now it's up to us to actually step up and get that job done. So in the next 2 years, I believe we're going to see the center of gravity of saving the country move from Washington, D.C. back to the states and to the people. And this is where I believe we here in Ohio have an opportunity to lead the way. Not just to follow Florida and Texas, not anymore. We're a state that's going to pave the way for America's path back to greatness. That is why I'm running to be your next governor. I don't want to just lead Ohio to be one of the better states in the Midwest. Because frankly, we are one of the better states in the Midwest. And I give great credit to many of those who have preceded me in the state legislature now and at every level, from county to state to township, for making us one of the best states in our region. We're a great state. But great is never good enough. Where I want to lead our state is not just to be one of the better states in our region, but to be the top state in the country, to give our kids a world-class education, to raise a young family, to generate wealth without apology and to keep that wealth, to give our kids the tools they need not to be victims, but to be victors in a competitive global economy. I want to lead Ohio to be the state of excellence in the United States of America, and I believe we can do it if we believe in ourselves. That's where we're leading our state. We're leading from the front. Now, there are those who will say that's an unrealistic goal for Ohio. I will talk to older friends from our, Ivy League, Harvard and Yale and New York City and California, Silicon Valley types, even Florida and Texas, right, when I visit our friends there. So how could Ohio be that state? Don't get ahead of yourself. I'll remind you, and I'll remind them, that it wasn't long ago that Ohio was that state of excellence in the United States of America. See, young people, there's a fashionable meme on the internet today. You go on TikTok in the last couple of years, you would see it. If something's a little bit old or out of touch or out of fashion, they say, only in Ohio. Right? And that irritates me. Because it wasn't long ago that people weren't making fun of Ohio. They were aspiring to be Ohio. At the turn of the last century, we were the wealthiest state in the Union, the third most populous state in the United States. Even in the first industrial revolution, all the way through it, We were the state that led the way, an economic powerhouse at the heart of the greatest nation known to the history of mankind, with great fertile farmland, great natural resources underneath our ground. Even in the 1950s, you think about that, that's not that long ago. In the 1950s, 6 of the top 15 wealthiest cities in America were right here in Ohio. Toledo, where I was this past week, was the glass capital of the world. Akron was the rubber capital. Youngstown and Cleveland were the leaders in steel production. Dayton, where I'm going to be tomorrow, was the computing power engine that actually led the Industrial Revolution. In my hometown of Cincinnati, we were known around the world as the Queen City, the consumer products capital of the country, known as Porkopolis. We led in food production as well. That's who we were. We were the pioneers, the explorers, the unafraid, the people who no bureaucracy or government or system would dare to stop from achieving the maximum of our potential. And there's a special thing that happens when you're that state and when you're that country. It gives our kids a special kind of self-confidence that I believe is their birthright as Americans, to achieve what they're told to believe is impossible, to go out and achieve it anyway. That wasn't just a vision, it was reality in this state. We're the state where Neil Armstrong grew up, born, raised, living right here in Ohio when he became the first man to walk on the moon in human history. We're the state where John Glenn was born, raised, lived, eventually becoming the first American to go into orbit around the Earth. The state of the Wright brothers, born, raised in Dayton, Ohio, before they take flight. Think of the gumption you got to have as a kid to say, oh, I see these cars, but no. I'm going to imagine one of those is going to fly. And I'm going to imagine I'm going to be the guy who actually does it, and then to go out and actually be that person. To say it's not just the blue skies that we see there, but the outer frontiers of space that we can't see, to be the first man in human history to walk on the moon, to take that giant leap for mankind. I was reading my older son a book about Neil Armstrong last night, and it occurred to me, what gave Neil Armstrong the confidence when I'm reading to my 5-year-old son, for him to be able to grow up and achieve what Neil Armstrong did? That's my dream for this state. It's who we've always been. And if you think about it, we can be that state again. Because first of all, we have every natural gift we did the first time around. The same fertile farmland, we still have it. The same natural resources underneath our ground, we still have it. In fact, they're more valuable today than they were the first time, because now we know we have natural gas, which we didn't even know was valuable at the time of the first Industrial Revolution. Great hardworking people in our state. We all know them and we represent them in this room. A great geographic location, with the Erie Canal to New York City, the Ohio River to the Mississippi. With 60% of North America's population, not just America's population, 60% of North America's population within a single day's drive of where we're having dinner right now. God has blessed our state with every gift we could possibly wish for to be the state that leads America back to greatness. All we have to do is to start believing in ourselves to actually do it again. And the good news is I do think we're in the middle of a second industrial revolution right now. And I'm in this Toledo, Ohio, to be the state that leads the way again. If it was Silicon Valley for the last 10 years, it's going to be the Ohio River Valley for the next 10 years. Done with the Rust Belt. We're not talking about the Rust Belt anymore. It's the Platinum Belt. We're not chasing our past, we're chasing our future. Now, I'll be frank with you. I was talking to a group of younger people at Ohio State. I was talking to the college Republicans across the state who convened at Ohio State earlier in Columbus, made my drive over here. In fact, I had a group of young Republicans here, too. You guys still here? I met you guys, a few of you outside. Are they still in here? Where are you? Stand up, young, including the agriculture students from Ohio State. Give these young men and women a round of applause. Great talking to you guys. A number of you good agriculture students close to here on the campus near here. A few of you studying agriculture back in Columbus. So I was talking to a few of your peers in Columbus before we drove up here tonight. And the thing that I shared with them is, it was a smart guy. One of your peers back there asked me a tough question. He said, you say you want to bring a manufacturing boom back to Ohio, but how are you going to do that while also leading in the sectors of the future? Because doesn't that mean we're actually going to make less money? Isn't that what happened in manufacturing? Well, so it's a good question, but I'm going to answer your question frankly. I don't want to lead Ohio back to 1950. That's not the point. When I'm talking about our past, we're not going backwards to 1950. What I want is for, yeah, no, you guys are good. Thank you very much. That's kind. What I want for us is for Ohio of 2025 to represent to the American economy what Ohio in 1950 represented to the American economy. So that doesn't mean we're copying our past. So you see, next time around, it may not be the same sectors as the past. It may not be rubber production next time around. But it's going to be the sectors of the future, from semiconductor production to nuclear energy, to natural gas to power our electric grid, from biotech to Bitcoin to our defense industrial base. The state where we use AI not to take jobs, but to make jobs through workforce training and education. Frankly, I believe starting at a young age. Embrace the future rather than resisting it right here. Applying that to our respective fields, from healthcare to financial services to construction design. That's my vision for this state. This is our modern-day Northwest Ordinance right here in the state of Ohio. As Christina said, we are a conservative state. We should be proud of that. And I don't think we should be ashamed to be actually governed like one. That's not going to lose us elections. It will win us elections because it's going to put more money in people's pockets. Not just Republican pockets, but Democrat pockets too. It's going to lift up more people from poverty. It's going to give our kids that missing sense of pride and self-confidence and civic meaning that they deserve to have as young people growing up in this state. And I believe it will make us a state that patriots across this country who share our values actually flock to. From New York to California, and frankly even from Florida to Texas, to move back to Ohio, including so many of our kids and our grandkids who have left this state to pursue opportunity elsewhere, to repatriate them so they're able to live the American dream right here in our own home state in Ohio. That's my dream for this state. And I do believe, I'm biased on this, obviously, but I do believe that it is going to take now, in this moment, a leader from the next generation to lead Ohio to our future. A leader who doesn't operate in silos, works with our legislature on a regular daily basis, works with the other statewide elected officials in the same way you lead a company with a one-team mentality. I want a one Ohio mentality in the way that we lead this state back to greatness. There will be some changes that we need to make in our state, and I won't shy away from those. This is to not take away credit from those who have given us a great foundation from which to build. Frankly, it's not California. All right? I endorsed my friend Steve Hilton the other day. He's running for governor of California. He's a great guy. I told him, your job's a lot harder than the one I'm signing up for. Okay, you need a U-turn from that communist republic over there. We're a state that's mostly headed in the right direction, okay? All we have to do is just step on the gas to get there even faster. But there are some changes required. The number one issue I believe that we face that perhaps our policymakers haven't quite talked about enough is the population decline in our state. And right now, people in my generation, and I'm a millennial, I'm 39 years old, proudly lived the American dream in this state. My parents came to this country with nothing 45 years ago. I've gone on to found successful companies, raising our two sons right at home in Columbus, Ohio. My wife has lived the American dream. She's a millennial. She's a throat surgeon at the cancer hospital at Ohio State. Yeah, it's happening every day when I'm traveling the state. I met a few of you beforehand who had friends and neighbors who have been treated by her. She's the true hero in our family. We've both lived the American dream, but what we're seeing right now is our generation is losing our confidence to have children. So we're having fewer kids, while the death rate is going up as our population ages. And then even worse than that, something that's happened, especially post-COVID, we got to really pay attention to this, is now we have more people leaving our state than moving in. And then you look at who's leaving our state, they tend to be younger college-educated people. Versus the people moving in, and we love them, but they tend to be coming from our neighboring states, and they tend to be on government aid. That doesn't work for our state in the long run. That's a demographic issue we're going to have to turn around. So on my watch, we're going to turn around from 11 million people and declining to 15 million people, including patriots, staying in the state and moving into this state and growing. And the number one way we're going to do it is making Ohio competitive with every other state that they're moving to, like Florida and Texas and Tennessee. We're going to make Ohio, on my watch, a zero income tax state because you deserve to keep what you earn. It's your money, not the government's. We don't want to disincentivize hard work. We want to celebrate it. It's not just the income tax, though. We talked about farmers and agriculture as a backbone of this state, as I believe it is. Well, the farmers in the room will know I mean this when I say this, but I believe every homeowner does too. The property taxes have gotten way too high, unjustly high in this state. It's wrong. When you're paying as much in your property tax as you are on the principal and interest payments on your mortgage, it starts to feel a lot like the land that you own is really just a lease from the government. And that's unjust. That's un-American. It's antithetical to our values here in Ohio, and we're going to fix it, starting with some common sense reforms that, frankly, everybody should agree on. People should know what they're voting for at the ballot box. It is so darn confusing. Right? Nobody knows what millage is. Okay, let's be really honest about it. I mean, there's some state legislators in here. Maybe a few of you probably do. But most people don't understand what they're voting for when they're voting for these increases. I think a statewide cap is appropriate across the board to say, here's the maximum percentage of your land that can be assessed as a property tax. I think we got to end the culture of red tape in our state. As I said earlier to a group of you, we are a red state, but we don't want to be a state of red tape, okay? And in some ways, that's what we've, in certain sectors, become. I talked to an owner of a water treatment plant in northwest Ohio when I visited Greater Toledo. He owns them in Indiana and other states. He said there it's 3 months to permit. Here it's 3 years. Natural gas permitting for a pipeline, 36 months. It should be 6 months or less. For every new regulation they try to put up when I'm your next governor, we will require that they rescind at least 10 others before we even consider it, to actually unlock our economy, to be a state where we're building. That's what I want for our state, the state where we build, where we build more homes, build more small businesses that grow up to be big businesses, build more manufacturing plants, build a family, build wealth, build a life in the mold of the American dream. The idea that if you work hard and play by the rules, you get ahead, you get to have a good life for yourself and dream for a better life for your kids. To make our state the state of energy dominance in America, manufacturing dominance in America, AI dominance in America, not just for the sake of our GDP numbers, but for the sake of our social fabric as a state. So we're no longer a place where little league teams have to shut down because they can't find a local company to sponsor them. So we're no longer a state where a mom has to think twice before having a second or third or fourth kid. The more the better, in my view, in this state. But we don't want a mom to have to think twice about that for fear of the cost of a new stroller or buying a bigger car. A state where every parent has that bone-deep conviction that their kids will go on to live an even better life than they did. Adopting common-sense reforms to restore law and order, to allow our law enforcement to be able to do their job and to do it well without fear looking over their shoulder for being sued. A state where our top form of mental health care isn't our jails, which is what it is right now. Bringing back long-term compassionate psychiatric institutions that we wrongly shuttered years ago based on false mythology. These are common sense reforms. A radical revolution of common sense in Ohio is what we want to bring to lead our state back to economic greatness. Now, in order to get there, there's one important missing pillar in all of this that we're going to have to confront head on. And that is, it's not unique to Ohio, this problem. It's true across the country. We're in the middle of an educational achievement crisis in the United States of America. Right now, we have 75% of 8th graders here who aren't proficient in math. And the average student in China is a full 4 years ahead of the average student here. That's unacceptable. And I know I speak for every person in this room when I say that we're going to turn that ship around. We're not going to sit by and idly watch. I'm going to lead Ohio to be the top state in the country, and frankly, I hope in the world, to give our kids a world-class education in math, reading, writing, critical thinking, physical education, civic education, as our kids actually deserve. That includes, thank you, we'll take that. This is for our children and the next generation of Americans. And that includes, as Christina talked about, taking our school choice programs to the next level. Because it is the God-given right, I believe, of every parent to make sure that their kids are able to go to the best possible school for them. We'll stand for that in Ohio. But if we're being honest, there's also many parts of this state where those choices don't actually exist, which means we have no choice but to also make sure that our public schools are equipped to compete with the best of those alternatives. And here's where we're not just going to play catch-up. Here's where we're going to lead the country and lead the way, standing for the achievement of our students. First of all, we've got to make sure our kids show up to school. Since the COVID-19 school closures, we have an epidemic of chronic absenteeism in our state. And I will promise you this. You referenced, Dr. Acton before. I'll tell you this. Never again will we bend the knee to a fake Anthony Fauci who allowed our public schools to be shuttered while our private schools remained open. She owes those kids an apology. She's my opponent in this race, and with your help, we're going to beat her by 40 points next year, deliver a unifying landslide for our own state. But that's just table stakes, right? The absenteeism issue. We got to aspire further than that. We want to stand for the achievement of our students in every domain, from the sports fields to the classroom. And that means that in our public schools, this may not be a traditional Republican talking point, and I'm okay with that, because I care about confronting the actual issue. That means our public school teachers, certainly the best public school teachers, need to be paid, frankly, a lot more than they're paid right now. Because you can't live the American dream on $40,000 a year of a starting salary. It's not possible. But it's got to be in some way tied to performance. Merit-based bonuses tied to not just teaching to the test, but peer assessments in the school, incentivizing collaboration, parental assessments, including making sure that you're not treating our kids like they're widgets on an assembly line. We want a manufacturing boom, but our education system isn't a manufacturing factory. Every child deserves their tailored path, assessed by the parent as an input to merit-based bonuses as well. To those who say this is impossible, I actually visited earlier this week the Vanguard Sentinel, a vocationally oriented high school, where they're paying teachers according to merit. And what do you see? They started that 10 years ago. Enrollment rates through the roof. Graduation rates through the roof. Job placement rates through the roof. And in fact, the best of the teachers there are actually making more money rather than less, tied to those outcomes that they're delivering. That's what our country's founded on. That's what we're bringing back to our state in a tailored way that'll be good for our students and, frankly, good for our teachers, too. Not just in math, reading, and writing, but also physical education. We're going to bring back PE in kindergarten, starting at a young age. We're going to bring back the presidential fitness test in the state of Ohio. Frankly, I don't know why we got rid of it in the first place. And that includes the pull-ups. I did mine with some difficulty this morning, okay? The truth is, the best way to save on health costs in the long run is to start with a healthier population at a young age in the first place. Not just physical health, but it's the flip side of that. That includes mental health, too. We're in the middle of a mental health epidemic across the country and in our region, too, if we're honest about it. Depression, anxiety, fentanyl, suicide, opioid addiction, spreading like wildfire through our country and through our state for too long. Our young people, for too long, have been hungry for a cause, hungering to be part of something bigger than themselves, hungry for purpose and meaning and identity, at a moment in our history when the things that used to fill that void, faith in God, patriotism, hard work, family, have all but disappeared in much of our country. And I think our families are the first line. There's no substitute for the family, and I do believe the nuclear family is the greatest form of governance known to mankind. We shouldn't apologize for that. That's the first line. But the number one factor outside of a family that affects a student's success is actually the quality of his schools and the quality of his teachers. We want to revive that missing sense of purpose and meaning by bringing back civic education, by bringing back the Pledge of Allegiance. We said it today. I think every high school student and every school student in Ohio should say the Pledge of Allegiance every morning with a moment of silence to go along with it. It's not too much to ask. Revive civic education in this state and civic pride. Teach our kids to be proud of our state and our country rather than ashamed of it or indoctrinated to believe otherwise. Some of this comes with some tough love, too. Get the cell phones out of the classroom. They're debating our kids into ADD and Ritalin treatment, stunning their growth. It isn't good for them in the long run. We'll require that every high school senior who graduates from an Ohio public high school has to pass the same civics test that every legal immigrant has to pass before they become a naturalized citizen. You got to do that to be able to graduate from high school. It's not too much to ask. And then that lays the foundation for higher education in our state. And as I said, my path to the American dream went through four-year college education at so-called elite universities. And I'm actually proud of that. It's a beautiful thing. I went to public schools through 8th grade. I went to St. Xavier, St. X High School in Cincinnati for high school. I went on to universities on the East Coast before we come back here to raise our family in Ohio. I'm proud of my path. But my path cannot be the only path either. And I will lead Ohio to be the state where every path is open to every child, for every son and daughter of our state who wants to become not just a doctor or a CEO, but a welder or a mechanic or an electrician or a machine operator or a plumber also has his and her path to the American dream right here in this state as well, without taking on burdensome four-year college debt, without burdensome occupational licensing requirements. Integrating earn-while-you-learn programs as early as high school to put some money in the pockets of those kids while they're gaining the skills when that's the right path for them, for our young men and women. And let's be honest about this, especially our young men, many of whom in high school feel disaffected from their system if they say it's only a four-year path or bust. What do? They detach, sit in their parents' basement, playing video games, smoking pot, and on government aid. It's not exactly the cycle that we want to incentivize. That's not compassion to send them the check afterwards. That's actually cruelty, as opposed to giving them the skills that allow them to declare that independence from their government. That's what I want for our state. The state where every son and daughter of our state who wants to become a doctor or an entrepreneur or a computer programmer has a path to do so, while also every young man and woman who wants to become a welder or a mechanic or an electrician also has a path to the American dream. That is what a true meritocracy is about. And this nation was built on the idea of a meritocracy. A nation that recognized that every one of us, that every one of you, that every one of our kids has your own unique God-given gift, distinct from every other person in the world. And that we are the nation where you get to make the most of your own unique God-given gift without any man or system or bureaucracy standing in your way. That is what made America great the first time. That is how we're going to make Ohio great again. That's how we're going to revive the American dream in Ohio. Make our state the cradle of the American dream, where our young people don't have to be spiteful to somebody else's success through capitalism or meritocracy, because they're participating in it with real skin in the game instead. That's my message to my kids and to yours. The American dream is your birthright in Ohio. Success is your birthright in Ohio. A world-class education is your birthright in Ohio. How old are you, young lady?
I'm 14.
You're 14.
14.
Huh? What's that? 13. Well, you know what? Our message to the next generation. Thank you. Larry, is that your daughter?
Yes.
Thank you for bringing the next generation here, man. This is why we're in this. And this is the state we want. I mean, freedom was our heritage. And if we embrace that for our next generation, I believe excellence will be our destiny as a state. And this is not I'll admit this is not a humble vision for our state. It's an ambitious vision. Because I believe that is who we really are as Ohioans and as Americans. We're not victims. We're victors. We don't whine, we win. That is who we are. It's who we've always been. When we rallied behind the cry to make America great again, that's what we hungered for. The unapologetic pursuit of excellence in the United States of America. I'm not a career politician. I'm not going to pretend to be one. I'm somebody who's grateful to this state and this country for allowing me to live an American dream that my parents never imagined possible when they came to Cincinnati, Ohio, where my dad worked at the GE plant at Evendale, Ohio. When my mom toured the nursing homes of Southwest Ohio, taking care of elderly patients in long-term care facilities, they would never imagine that I'm here in the position that I am. And the thing that makes my story extraordinary is that it's not extraordinary in the United States of America. That's what makes this state and this nation great, and I will fight every day to pass that American dream on to my kids and to yours. We're going to listen to you. We're going to travel to every part of this state. I'm visiting all 88 counties this year. I'm visiting all 88 counties next year. Frankly, I'm going to visit all 88 counties every one of the 8 years that I hopefully am able to serve as your next governor if you all put me there. We don't want to govern from a bubble, and we don't want to govern for a bubble. We're not in this just to lead the people in this room. We're in this to lead the people who aren't in this room as well. Frankly, my message to everybody in Ohio tonight is, if you care about economic excellence and educational excellence for your kids, if you care about giving your kids the same shot at the American dream that this state gave to me, then frankly, we're going to work with you to lead our state to the next level. We're not going to agree on everything. As I said earlier, we're a nation founded on the idea that you get to speak your mind openly as long as I get to in return. And at our best, we still get together at the dinner table at the end of it. We had that tonight, actually. I want to share with you, the person who I was beginning to break bread and salad with was actually a woman who I met earlier this evening, who was one of the protesters outside tonight. We struck up an interesting conversation, and one of the things I learned about her that didn't come out in the first part of our exchange, but came out over the latter part of the exchange, is that she's a Vietnam War veteran who served this country with pride. And I invited her, and Sandy, I'd like you to stand up for a second so we could say thank you to you for your service. And every other veteran in this room, please stand up. All of our veterans in the room, stand up tonight for those who have served our country with pride. We're going to stand for every one of our veterans, Democrat or Republican. We met 2 Vietnam veterans tonight, and Sandy, you're one of them. Would you like to come up and say a few words tonight? We'll offer you the chance to have your view heard if you wish. You were gracious enough to join us. Would you like to come up here, Sandy? You can come on up. You're welcome up here. Thank you. We'll give somebody who may not share our views but has served this country a chance to be heard tonight. Thank you.
I appreciate you giving us a chance to talk to you outside. I really wasn't expecting it because, well, I'm not a Trump person. I told you that.
I wasn't expecting that.
So it's given me a different perspective talking to you.
Well, thank you for being here, and thank you for your open-mindedness. All right, and let's give Sandy a warm welcome and give her a hand, please. Yep. Thank you, sir. Thank you. We're in this to take, I don't care if you're libertarian, independent, Republican, orphan, Reagan, Democrat. I don't care if you're politically homeless. Anybody who's politically homeless in this state, we will work with you to lead our state to the next level, because we don't have to be a state in decline. We don't have to be a nation in decline. We don't have to be, really, even tonight, I mean, my exchange with Sandy, we started a little contentious earlier, but we don't have to be a state divided, frankly. We can still be a state and our nation in our ascent, still on our way up, still on our way to that shining city on a hill, that state and that country where we will look our kids in the eye and mean it when we tell them that you get ahead in the United States of America with your own hard work, your own commitment, your own dedication. And that you know what? You are free to speak your mind at every step of the way. That is the American dream. That is what we are running to. So that 10 years from now, when we're sending manned rockets to Mars, when we're powering our electric grid with the energy of the future, when we're curing previously incurable forms of diseases with cures discovered right here in Ohio, You know what our young people are going to say then? Only in Ohio. That's my dream for this state, and with your help, we'll turn it to reality. Thank you, guys. God bless you and your families, and may God bless our United States of America. We're going to lead our state to our best days ahead of us. Thank you all. Great to be here, Wayne County. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Good to see you. Thank you, man.
Don't go away just yet.
Okay, Chairman. Okay, thank you.
Alex, Mortensen, get up here.
Thank you.
As you may know, Young Republican includes 18 to 40 inclusive. And so you are a Young Republican.
Oh, that's right.
And you are in Wayne County, and the Wayne County Young Republicans have something for you. Alex?
On behalf of myself, my executive team, and the whole organization, we would love to honorarily invite you as a member of our organization of Wayne County Young Republicans.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you, guys. I appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you.
I might be the young Republican with the least hair, especially in the back, but thank you, guys. I appreciate that. Thank you very much. It's an honor, okay? Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you, Vivek.
Thank you.